Thank you, Joel, Chairman of the UOS here in Cape Town, Mr. Eric Berger, Executive Director, Diane Liebenberg, Rabbi Darren, Honored Rabbonim, Gaboim, Chairman, friends. It's really wonderful to be here together in person. I was thinking that this time, when we had our conference 2 years ago, in 2020, it was a conference which was held on Zoom, and it was in the depths of all of the darkness of COVID right towards the beginning. And we didn't at that time, 2 years ago, when we met as the UOS, our shuls, our rabbis, our committees, everyone together, when we met at that time, we couldn't even imagine the difficult road that lay ahead, because that was just a few months into the pandemic. And there were many waves that came after that. Many who within our community, across our country and across the world, who subsequent to that last conference fell sick. Many, unfortunately, who passed away. And so at this moment, as we gather again 2 years later, we do so with humility and gratitude. We do so with tremendous empathy for those in our community, in our country, in our world who experienced loss and suffering and much challenge and difficulty. And we also do so with tremendous gratitude to Hashem, with a sense that we are here today at this conference 2 years later with the pandemic behind us and really able to say that Shehiyanu v'kiyimanu v'giyanu lazman hazeh. And indeed, that is the great blessing of life that we give thanks to Hashem for. And it's often at times of tremendous loss when we appreciate what we have. And so now to be able to appreciate what it means to be well, what it means to be able to survive and to have the blessing of life itself is something which we give acknowledgement to Hashem. And then in response, we commit ourselves to using our energy and our life and our health for the good. And that's what this conference is about. Our sages teach us that kinus tzadikim tov la'olam, that when the righteous gather and come together as a unit in a sense of community and do so with the purpose of making the world into a better place, that is tov la'olam, that is indeed good for the world. Kinus tzadikim tov la'olam. And that is indeed what this is all about, because the UOS here in Cape Town and indeed nationwide represents the community of our shuls and everything that we can do together that we cannot do alone. The UOS is a union. It is about the fact that as shuls separately, we can only do so much. But when we come together as a community of shuls, that gives us the halachic, the financial, the political, the sense of community support to be able to establish the things that are necessary for the functioning of our community, to have a kashrut department, to have a beis din, to have a unified rabbinate. That is indeed what is achieved when we come together. When we stand alone, there is only so much that can be done in the world. But when we come together, that is kinus tzadikim tov la'olam, when the righteous gather, when good people gather to make this world into a better place, then indeed it does. And so this conference, we look back on these last 2 years, and we look back with a sense of loss, but also, I believe, a sense of pride and accomplishment as a community. And in particular, I want to pay tribute at this moment as we look back on this pandemic to CSO Medical for their unstinting support to our community, to attending to every person who contracted COVID, providing the support. Myself and my family were tremendous beneficiaries of this, because we fell sick with COVID in December of 2020 here in Cape Town, and it was the CSO Medical that was there day in, day out with tremendous support. We felt it as a family, and I know that as a community we all felt it, and there are so many tales to tell. So Jared, please convey to everyone at the CSO that we are grateful not only for your presentation this evening and the passion and the dedication of CSO to protect our community, but also being there as a crucial part of helping our community to survive COVID. And we thank you deeply. Words cannot adequately pay tribute and give thanks to you for everything that you did. The other dimension that we can take pride is as our shuls, because when reflecting on the last 2 years, and these were indeed historic times, there we see the power of what unity is. Because the fact that we have a community of shuls, a community of rabbis, a community of committees. It's not fragmented where each rabbi is on their own and every committee is on their own and every shul is on its own. It is a community working together with cohesion, with unity. That is why we were able, with Hashem's blessings of course, to navigate our way through this incredibly challenging time, because we did it together. And I think when looking back on these last 2 years, we can say, as a community of shuls, as a union of shuls, what we did was, and by working together through my office, through the Beis Din, through the Rabbinical Association, through the Gaboyim, through every structure and part of the UOS, we assembled a committee of experts, of medical experts. We worked out the guidelines, the parameters, the protocols for our shuls. But in a certain sense, that was the easy part, to work that out, because ultimately that had to be implemented. And it was implemented with such dedication to detail and such dedication to the safety of our community that I want to use this occasion at this conference to pay tribute to our shuls, to our gaboyim, to our rabbonim, to our rebbitzins, to every part of our shuls, who came together to close our shuls when we had to reopen when we had to, and then to do so with safety, with the social distancing, with masks, with the every attention, realizing that the mitzvah of the times was pikuach nefesh, was to save lives. And in that sense, we can look back on these last 2 years as the community of shuls and say with pride that we rose to this occasion, to this challenge, and we did so with total dedication and with total unity. So let this conference, looking back 2 years since the last conference, we can really say with pride that all of us together came through this because we were together and we acted together with cohesion and with unity, and faced these trials and tribulations and challenges with bravery, with courage, and with determination. So yeshar koach to all of you, and indeed to all of us and our whole community and everybody who made that possible. And of course, as we are reflecting on this commitment and dedication, we now need to look forward. Because we can't just have a conference that looks back over the last 2 years. We need to say what lies ahead now. Because now that we're on the other side of this pandemic, and the vaccine has been made widely available, and as the pandemic has receded throughout the world, we now have to say, what does the future hold for our shuls? What will it be? Because many people got used to not coming to shul. And as a result, shul numbers came down, and even when the shuls were reopened, and even when now there's no longer the mask mandate and all of these things, the concept of shul attendance and the vibrancy of our shuls remains a critical issue. So what will be at our UOS conference in 2 years' time, in 2024? Then we're going to have to look back at this moment and say, did we rise to this challenge of renewing and refreshing and rebuilding our shuls after COVID? Because this conference, we look back to 2020 and we look back at what we went through in COVID, and we can say with pride and with gratitude, we did well as a community of shuls. We did more than well. We did outstandingly well. And we can be so proud of ourselves. But now we have to say, as a community of shuls, as rabbonim, as gaboim, as chairman, as everybody, as shul members, what is going to be in 2 years' time? We're going to look back at this conference and say, did we renew and rebuild our shuls after COVID in the way that we should? And let me say this, that I am profoundly optimistic about the future of our shuls. I say that because I believe that our shuls have so much to offer people of what they really need. And I say that on the evidence of the pandemic itself. Because in a certain way, what the pandemic did is that it made life super efficient. If you want to have many meetings, you want to have a conference like this, so then everyone can have the conference, you just go home and you put on your computer and you join the conference. And so then you don't have to leave home. You certainly don't have to get on a plane to get here. And you can just be at the conference, and it's very easy. Everything becomes super efficient. You can attend many meetings, meet with large groups of people, and you can get lots done. Don't even have to have the time of the commute to work and to back, and everything becomes more efficient. Davening becomes more efficient, doesn't it? Because then you don't have to go to a service that's going to take much longer. You can do it much shorter at home. Everything becomes more efficient. But you know what? I think that we all learned from the pandemic that efficient doesn't mean enriching. Efficient doesn't mean meaningful. Efficient doesn't mean inspiring and uplifting. Efficient only means one thing: you save a little bit of time. That is all that it means. And life is not just about saving time. Of course, time is our most precious commodity. As the Chofetz Chaim famously said, time is life. What we have in this world is the time that Hashem gave us. But nevertheless, the time that Hashem gave us in this world is in order that we can do good with it, that we can be inspired, that we can make a contribution. And what we learned about COVID is that life under a pandemic and life under lockdown, we learned life becomes very efficient, but it becomes also sterile. And people crave something that you cannot get on a screen. No matter how many faces are on the screen, you cannot get the presence of another human being. You cannot get the presence of another person created in God's image in the Tzelem Elokim. You cannot get the energy of community. What we learned in COVID is that you can get everything you need from this world and extract it efficiently, but you cannot get community. What is community? The sense of being together. That is why here at this gathering this evening, we all could be watching on our screens, and then what? We wouldn't feel each other's energy. We wouldn't sense the friendship in this room. We wouldn't sense the partnership in this room. We wouldn't sense the solidarity. We wouldn't sense any of this. We would be sitting in front of our screens alone, each one of us in our homes, and that would have been a loss. So what the pandemic taught the world is that one of the most precious things is community. And our sages and our Torah understood this in the deepest, most profound way, because our Torah was formed and shaped by the creator of the universe, who knows us better than we know ourselves. And Hashem said, Lo tov heyot adam levado, that it is not good for a human being to be alone. You can do lots of things alone. You can be in your own head and you can achieve and you can talk and write and do all kinds of things. But the best things we do in the world is when we do them together. That's what I said at the beginning of this report. Kinus tzadikim tov l'olam. When the righteous gather is good for the world, not only because what is achieved, but because of the energy of those bonds. And so if you daven, you pray by yourself, so then, but without a minyan, where's the sense of community? Where's the sense of the spirituality of that? And the connection to Hashem, and the chesed, and the kindness, and the learning of Torah together. And the fact that we are not single individuals, but we are part of a greater whole. That is what people are thirsting for. And therefore I remain optimistic about the future of our shuls, because we have what people are looking for. Human connection, community, meaning, purpose, being part of something greater than ourselves. And that is what society is longing for in this modern world, where everything has become so efficient that you have it in the palm of your hand. Literally, you can have access to any product, any experience you want at the palm of your hand, but not life itself. Life is not virtual, it is real. Life is not solitary, it is communal. Life is not just about extracting a product, it is about living and connecting with Hashem, with the people around us, and ultimately with ourselves. And therefore I remain optimistic, but there is a challenge before us. And with that I want to bring my report to a conclusion, to lay out the challenge from this conference to the next conference. If we are to succeed, and I believe we can, because we are addressing the most profound need of the human condition, which is for meaning, purpose, connection, community. That is the most profound human need. We in our shuls, through our Torah, through all of the values that Hashem has given us, we are sitting on what people most desperately need and want. But in order for that to happen, for our shuls to be renewed, And in order for us, when we gather at our next conference, please God, in 2024, when we gather, and please God, that should be in Yerushalayim, Ir HaKodesh. And when we gather looking back at that point, what it should be at that moment is to say, how will we have achieved it? We will achieve it through a paradigm shift. And I believe the paradigm shift that we all need to make in our shuls in order to rise to this occasion of renewing and refreshing our shuls post this pandemic is the following. Are our congregants, and this is a question not just for shul committees and rabbis, this is a question for every member of the South African Jewish community. What does it mean to be a member of a shul, to be a congregant? Does it mean that we are a consumer and a client who pays fees and gets services? That model is doomed to failure. If a congregant, a person who attends shul, sees themselves as a fee-paying client who's paying membership fees in order to receive the services of the rabbi, the chazan, the shul, that model cannot work. Because ultimately, Judaism, Torah, to be a Jew is not about being a consumer. It is about being an active participant. It is about being a partner. We don't want consumers and clients in our shul, we want partners. We as members of the South African Jewish community, we don't want to be consumers and clients of Judaism. We want to be partners in the fashioning of it. We don't want to be spectators who are just watching the game. We want to be on the field, the players who are doing it. We don't want to be passive, we must be active. We don't want to be consumers of a product. We want to actually do something special. And therefore, our message to our shuls needs to be, and as congregants, our message needs to be the same. We want to be part of it. We want to be active partners in everything that happens in the shul. We don't want to sit back and say, well, let the rabbi inspire me. Let the committee provide the bracha that I eat. Let the seats be well upholstered and make the electricity work, because otherwise I'm not paying my fees. And how can you service me? And let's see what this product has to offer me. And maybe if there's a nicer and a better product elsewhere down the road at the shopping mall, then that's where I will be. If that is our approach, the model of the shul cannot work. It has to be as active participants. That is when it becomes rewarding. And what, as the South African Jewish community, we need to be saying to our shuls, and what our shul leadership needs to be saying to our community is, come, let's do this together as active partners. And that means, as the world stands on the three pillars, on the learning of Torah, on davening, and on chesed, that means learning Torah is not just sitting back passively and waiting only for the moment of the sermon, which is of course a moment of inspiration, but we also need to say we want to get involved. Where can we learn? Let's make a chabrusa, let's find someone to learn with. Davening prayer is not to listen to the chazan and the choir, it's actually to open the siddur and to pour out one's heart to Hashem. It is not a spectator sport, it is about being in it. It's in that moment. And chesed, kindness, is not waiting for the hospitality committee of the shul to do something, but as you say, as a member of the shul, as a partner of the shul. Are there people in my shul, in my community, who are in need, who need a visit to Birkat Kohanim? Since when is it only the job of the rabbi and the rebbetzin to visit the sick? It is the mitzvah of every Jew. We all need to get involved in spreading kindness, in spreading love, in spreading support, in spreading wisdom, in spreading inspiration. Then we take ownership of it. Then we build. We don't just wait for it to happen. We are part of it. And that's why I think it's very significant that this conference takes place during the 3 weeks when we are mourning destruction, Khurban. What is the greatest answer to destruction? Because we have seen a world destroyed through the pandemic, is to build and to rebuild. And to build means to be active. There is an incredible opportunity and a calling from Hashem to rise to the occasion of the next few years, to reframe our shuls with a new paradigm and a new model which says we are no longer service providers. We are partners together as a community to build our shuls, and when we build thriving shuls, which are sources and places of inspiration and upliftment, then indeed we will be part of building and recreating a flourishing South African Jewish community with Hashem's great blessings. We ask Hashem that He should bless us all with the coming of the final redemption soon, so that the next conference when we gather, because the Talmud says that all of the shuls from the diaspora across the world are going to be transported to Yerushalayim, Ir HaKodesh, to the holy city of Jerusalem. May we gather at our conference in 2024 in Jerusalem with all of our Cape Town shuls firmly planted in Jerusalem, living in a world which is redeemed, in a world in which Hashem has wiped away all tears and suffering is brought to an end and illness comes to an end, and it is a world of abundant redemption and Gula may occur speedily in our days. God bless you and thank you.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much, Rabbi. Now it gives me great pleasure to deliver my